Well, what are we up to today? Well, I've got a few things to do with a 6-wheel drive ambulance that we're still in the process of converting into a camper. It's livable at the moment, but we still need some minor refinements, not finer refinements. I get words backwards sometimes. That's brain lesions for you. So, one of the first things we're going to add today is a smoke alarm / carbon monoxide alarm with a 10-year life fixed battery in it, which will be handy because if anything catches fire in the middle of the night, we're probably not going to wake up, and we could pretty easily suffocate in that thing. So that's something we definitely want to put in there. Keeping with that theme, we're going to fit a fire blanket somewhere. It's just a fiberglass cloth used to smothering fires. Not sure, we're not actually doing any flame cooking in there. We'll be using mostly electric in the boiling vessels, but you know, this is handy. We might be around a campfire or something. We do camp a lot with it. I have a stack of fire extinguishers here, only one of which we're going to use. In actual fact, I have a 1 kilo, a smaller one actually. I'll grab off camera here. This is on the end of my desk. This is a slightly smaller one. This will probably get relegated to the ambulance, although it is about 5 years old. You know what? Let's have a look. I think they're the same size. My plan with these 3 ones was to replace 3 of my old ones that are a few years old, and then use these to demonstrate to the apprentice and whatnot how to use a fire extinguisher. Well, these are of a similar size, so you know what? We might put a new one in the ambulance and we'll use that one for demonstration and training purposes. Mostly because my apprentice and my senior financial manager both haven't really used a fire extinguisher in anger, so we might light a fire in some controlled circumstances and actually teach them how to use a fire extinguisher. So yeah, we'll hide one of those in the ambulance somewhere. That for now can go back on the rack. Now dry chems, you do need to take them off and shake them up every now and then too. So I'll put this one back on the rack and we'll be right back. Alright, so we find ourselves in the back of the ambulance here. And this is the rear footway. This place looks like a bomb's hit it. I've been picking up spare bits of acrylic that I've got to put away somewhere. Now, we're looking in the rear footwell. There used to be some hinging boxes here. There's another one up that way I can show you actually. This little box here, there's these little latches that you can pull these latches and it will slip out. Used to be a whole bunch of them, like 3 of them all the way along here. The previous owners took them out, and would have been nice to still have them, but you know, the proverbial happens. Anyway, there is now room underneath here. There's this stopper that was installed for them too that I'll eventually remove. And I think up under here is a good spot for an extinguisher. And I think if I put it this way, I can easily grab in and grab that latch, and I can reach into my hand and pull it out like that very easily. So under there is good. I'm not likely to trip over it. Now there are some other spots further up that would be more accessible, but for people that are a little less shorter than me, which I do sometimes go out with in this thing, it's a little bit difficult to reach for them. So here is a pretty universal point. It's also, if I have the door shut with a footstep down, I can reach in at the footstep and grab it too, which means that, you know, if I'm trying to contain a fire and keep it oxygen deprived, it's a little easier to access. So we have a couple of square drive screws. I'm going to whack the bracket in underneath here. So get this guy out. A bit hard to remove with the plastic on, but it's all good. Now we want to face it that way to make the bracket easiest to get to. So that should be good. And these are little short ones because there's actually a steel lining behind the edge of this. Now this will look a bit crooked to start with, but don't freak out. Because, well, previous person to use this has left the clutch setting in 2-speed. That's much better. Alright, now we can get this nice and level, get our second screw in. We should be about right. It looks about good. It's no use using a level on a vehicle that might not be on level ground. There we go. Nice and solidly in there. That's good. Now plastic bag off. Work an extinguisher in here. This will also make it probably a little bit It'll probably shake it up a little bit more readily at this angle too. There we go. I may even go to the trouble of putting a string on the bracket. There's a little loop you can grab, so I can just grab a string here and rip it out. Not sure. Now, one other thing that bothers me, these little rivets here, where the previous owner had, they have cut some of the rivets off and they've drilled some of the others. I want to drill and grind some of these out. So I've got the grinder here. It might mess up the aluminium angling a bit, but I'm hoping it will reduce the chances of it cutting the back of my leg open, which I can probably show you the back of my leg on camera here. I've slashed it up quite badly in the past when I've brushed against that, so I'm going to get the grinder on the job. So let's do that. Alright, let's get drilling here. These ones have got a bit of meat on them, so I can probably just drill them out a bit, make them a bit cleaner. That's certainly smoother than it was. This one could be a bit trickier. Yeah, this one is that's a lot less sharp. It's not likely to rip me up there. These other ones a bit further up are going to be a bit more trouble. There's one that I've actually badly cut myself on up there, and they've been clearly cut, so let me go investigate that. Now, whenever I'm doing this kind of work, I come across little friends. These guys are some of my favourites. They're little tiny jumping spiders. They can sometimes talk to you if you wriggle your fingers right. But yeah, they're quite friendly. This guy is, I think, a pregnant female actually, so I'll find a good home for that one. Anyway, I'm moving on. Okay, well, this little spot here, I've slashed my legs up a couple of times on, and you can see the indentation of where one of those fittings used to be. This one's pretty good. This one I've had a crack with a file a couple of times, but I think it's a grinder job. Let's see how well the sound cancelling works on a GoPro. Here he goes. Geez, battery grinders have come a long way, haven't they? That one needs a tiny bit more. Well, I didn't mess up the aluminium as much as I thought I would, which is nice. By the way, this is my Ryobi one, and I've got a zip disc on, an ultra thin cut-off disc. Alright, that will be nice. Alright, I can run my hand along there without being stressed about it anymore. There's a bit of a nick there, we might just touch that one up. That's better. Alright, it's a little bit safer for my legs than that of my apprentice. So let's get on to putting the fire blanket up. Alright, now before we do the fire blanket, I'm going to explain how we cook in here. These are two boiling vessels. This one is out of a Chieftain and or possibly a Centurion tank. Sometimes the FV432s sometimes use them as well. It takes 55 amps at 24 volts and boils water, and you have little bain-marie trays that can fit in there if you want to get fancy about your meal making. This is a more modern version, also used in AFVs, and you've got a pot of hot water in there. Also uses a bain-marie tray as well. This one latches down. This one is full of asbestos, and I've replaced the thermostat to 80 degrees instead of like the 180 degree one in there, because you could occasionally use them for sausage sizzling. We're not doing that, and it's a bit dangerous considering that the thermal fuse in it is 185 degrees. This one pulls about 15 amps at 24 volts and has a low mode and a high mode. So in the high mode it'll bring it to the boil, then maintain it at 86 degrees, and in low mode it maintains it at 60. So we're cooking with that. So fire is not really a huge risk, but being as we're camping, we will take one of these anyway, because there is a good chance we'll be setting fire to something. So we had the original gurney frames were mounted in here, and there's some captive nuts, so I think I'm going to stick one to the captive nut. Now, the original gurney frames were removed by the previous owner. We did look at bringing them, but they're a lot of weight for not very much use for us. And I think I think the fiberglass has shifted since I put these in. I got new bolts to fit it, but yeah, I think I'll get my socket set. One moment. Now, I seem to recall these were UNF bolts or something off memory. I can't remember the exact thread. It is in a previous video of mine where I did actually go and explain what the thread type and depth was on those and the diameter and everything. But anyway, got that one out. If I'm lucky, this will be about the right size for the hole on the fire blanket. Might as well take the plastic off, I guess. Bit hard to use with the plastic on. Oh, and it smells like that new horrible plastic smell. I'm hoping I don't have to leave this to air out for a while, because it will stink everything out in here. What do you know, the bolt's just about the right size. So we'll shove you back in there, and that will be very nice and neat, and I can grab both of those ends and yank if I need to, and then you end up with a fire blanket in your hands holding by the tabs. Alright, go in from here, and I've left the washer on top just to give it a little bit more purchase. Right, it doesn't need to go on very tight, that'll be good, and that can swing around and smash into shit, but that's alright. Actually, you know what, maybe it's not. Let's give it a quick tweak up. Yeah, that's alright, that's good enough. Yep, that'll come out nicely. And we shove it back in there just before it gets unraveled. Okay, another safety device. Now, smoke alarm time. Alrighty, so we've got a smoke alarm to open, which means I need a sheep's foot blade so I can get good control on it. And I could use scissors to open this, but you know, that wouldn't look like I'm doing risky things, which apparently makes YouTube videos popular, which is also not something I'm trying to do. So, I don't know. There isn't much explanation as to why I do it this way. I do have a cutting board below the camera here. I'm not sure what the wide angle can see. But let's check the viewfinder. Oh, I probably kind of can see it. Now, these units are designed to go through a plaster roof. And so they give you a plaster anchor and these screws. There is so much wiring running through the roof of this thing, I don't really like putting screws where there haven't been screws before. So, we're probably going to use some handy dandy super duper mounting tape. Now, I could stick this little round thing on here, or I could stick it straight on there, but there's this foam ring around here which might make that a problem. So, I guess I'm going to stick the ring on the roof with mounting tape. Alright, I'm going to use the handy dandy Victorinox here, not the Leatherman this time. And I'm just going to add some bits and pieces here. That must be the Cotanger Technology branded marshmallow toaster that's sitting beside there. Now, I think this stuff, I'm just going to put several pieces of this around and hope it's enough to hold a smoke alarm to the roof. It's supposed to be good for 30 kilograms to the square centimetre, this stuff. So I'm hoping I get at least a square centimetre worth of contact area on it. I'll get a bit more of that. See how we go, and I might just trim the excess off the sides. Not that we're going to really notice anyway. So I'll go around the edge here and trim a bit off. I love these Victorinox scissors, they are like deadly sharp. Great for doing your whiskers. So alright, that should be good. We'll put them in the bin. We'll stick this to the roof. I'm actually thinking I might actually fit this on here first and then stick it to the roof. See if it falls off and lands on me head in the middle of the night. Oh, by the way, that thing that just startled me, there's a switch there that turns them on and off. You've got to be careful of that if you ever remove it, because it can turn it off. Although the instructions do say that once it's on, it's permanently activated and you can't turn it off again. That switch kind of says otherwise. But anyway, let's go stick this to the roof. Now, I had a lot of options for where to put this. And you know, the bell strip in the middle kind of gets in the way. I thought actually the back of the door is probably the most sensible spot, because anything coming out of here is likely to flow up and around there. And at night, sitting edgeways up here, it's a little bit lower down, which means it's more likely to get the monoxide. The downside is that this area is not as clean. The top of the door hasn't been cleaned as thoroughly as everything else, and there has been something stuck there in the past, so maybe there was a smoke alarm up here. Alright, so I need to let that dry, and then we'll stick our smoke alarm on. Okay, so it's nicely dried. I'll remove the old sticky pads, see if I can get the plastic protectant off these ones. I call it the anti-stick layer, or it's full-on static generators. When you peel these things off, they cling to the plastic stuff, clings to you, something chronic. Alright, I guess we'll do it that way to look aesthetically pleasing, somewhere near the center. Alright. Alright, that's on. Now we test. Alright, so it beeps, it's... Alright, don't stand near that thing. Alright, it works. Cool. Alright, now we can move on to the next thing. Oh, shut up. Alright, so we're back at my desk to finish this video off. We had some unprecedented, well, not really unprecedented, but we had some major rainfall and some major floods, and that conflicted with my medical appointments, and a whole bunch of other stuff happened. So I actually ended up having to jump into the Ambo and take off for a couple of days and go and get all that stuff done. So this video is actually probably way out of sequence, but yeah, I'm just going to finish it. We'll do some more with the Ambo soon enough. I have a few things I really need to do. But anyway, I hope this stuff was sort of interesting for the channel. We'll see what else we can get done shortly. But yeah, hope you enjoyed, and we'll do something in depth and mechanical and important soon enough.